Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology podcast for March 18th, 2022. Hope you had a good St. Patrick's Day. I had a pretty nice one. I've got something here. I was working on a little clover, and I was outlining it with these little beads and didn't finish before the end of the day, but you know what? I'm still going to finish it. It's supposed to be a necklace. Anyway, yeah, it was good St. Patrick's Day, and we are here in Orlando with a beautiful sunny day. It's 90 degrees today, or 88, somewhere up very close to 90. Not very fun, kind of hot, kind of bothersome, but anyway, I've got the fan going and we're going to just plow through it anyway. Today, I want to talk to you about what's going on in the sky, and we're going to touch on Putin's chart a bit at the end so that we can kind of dig deeper, because there's some things with this chart I wanted to mention which I didn't do before. So today we have a moon in Libra, a 4-degree Libra moon, which means that over the weekend we're going to have moon in Libra, which is kind of a nice moon actually, because it's ruled by Venus and it's a balancing moon. It's also an intellectual moon. And I think I've mentioned this before, but Libra falls between Virgo and Scorpio. And Virgo is highly analytical. It's ruled by Mercury. We are really aware of logic and analysis under Virgo. And then Scorpio is the research sign. And so we are really focused on finding information out, getting to the bottom of things. And we're emotional and visceral. We engage information in the core of our being. And so having Libra right between those two signs is very highly charged intellectually, because it is an air sign, and air signs are really good with neurological transmission. And so that means information comes in, air signs gather information more through the mind and the thought process than, say, the body or emotions, which are other signs, or even doing physical things, which would be fire. So Libra being an air sign means that we're going to be really engaged intellectually and enjoy our time with others through thought and communication. You may notice in this chart, we've got the moon opposite every other planet and light in the body of the heavens. So that means the moon is in opposition to a good portion of what's going on in the sky, approaching an opposition to Chiron, which means we're going to have a home energy of the moon, the domestic side of things that wants everything to be secure, in opposition to the asteroid in the heavens that really show us a weakness or a wounding. And that's a societal wounding, because this is just a general chart for the week. And Chiron in Aries means it revolves around men and masculine energy, aggression and assertion. So of course, what's going on in Ukraine or anywhere else in the world that is regarding aggression, fire, emergencies, taking action on something, more masculine energy. It could be sales. It could be the activity of moving forward, anything where we are chasing or actively seeking is also the energy of Aries. And so that is apparent right now. And we are seeking to balance. We're seeking to be diplomats. And of course, that's an ongoing thing right now with Russia and Ukraine, is that trying to negotiate a peace. And so we see that, and that also appears in our own charts, in our own lives. So wherever Aries is, we're seeing that. I've got Aries in the house of work, 6th house, which can mean sales. And I am focusing more on self-promotion and sales right now, which is also the area of Aries in the chart. So we've got Mercury, Jupiter, Neptune, and the Sun for the weekend anyway, all in Pisces. And that means that we are really at the apex of the energy of Pisces. It's the last couple of days of people with Sun in Pisces for their birthdays. Happy birthday, those who were born this weekend. Definitely having Jupiter and Neptune in the sign of Pisces, which both are co-rulers of the sign. They are within 5 degrees of each other, which is really highly concentrated energy in the sign of Pisces. It is an energy of retirement and the end of something, death of something. We can really feel this as depression, or as I've been doing, creativity. I've been just going crazy with creativity. It's tuning into metaphysical things, the other side, seeking out higher wisdom, having higher wisdom, being the wise one for other people. We may have a photographic eye. We may be better at memorizing things. Pisces historically is really good at what is commonly known as photographic memory, but really isn't necessarily photographic. If you watch Big Bang, it's called eidetic, and it just means that we see things visually and we can draw on that visual image of something. And we even connect emotion to kind of a mental photograph of something. I know I have a Saturn in Pisces, and it's like I remember events very clearly through the emotional memory of it. And then I visualize, and I'm really good with imagination, which is also under Pisces. And it's like, some people are like, oh, I can't believe how you can draw that. Or, I draw things from memory because I engage my emotions with what I'm doing. And it's like it ingrains that in my mind. And so I can draw on very clear imagery when I'm doing my artwork. And it makes me really good at copying a lot of things as well. I see things kind of photographically, and that's the arena of Pisces, along with film and film photography, poetry. Those are the preferred methodologies of Pisces ruling. Really good with putting emotion into music. So musicians influenced by this, especially now with Jupiter and Pisces, really strong emotional bonds and links can be brought out in music for musicians right now. One of my favorite musicians was born on St. Patrick's Day, and that's Hosier. So happy 32nd to him. But, his music really brings in the imagery of an event and brings in also the poetry in a way that sometimes the hidden agenda or hidden imagery that Pisces can bring to any artistic endeavor comes out in his music, where he had a very big hit called Take Me to Church, and people thought it was about going to church. But if you listen to it and if you watch his interviews, he says it's basically about sex. And so there's kind of a hidden information in what comes out with the creative side of ourselves at this time. Mercury in Pisces, very quiet Mercury. Mercury in Pisces is very observational, does not talk easily. Like they're very shy, not necessarily outgoing, but I have a daughter who has Mercury in Pisces, and her Jupiter is in Gemini, which is also ruled by Mercury. And yet her midheaven, which is where Jupiter is in her chart, gives her a much more social side, and she can be very chatty at times. But her default is to be quiet and observational. And I think that was the way she always was growing up. But now, as we're getting closer, I mean, if you look at where the planets are, we have Uranus in Taurus, and he's going to be going into Gemini here in a few years, not right away, but definitely the next sign is Gemini. Uranus and Gemini, that's going to be a whole other animal, quite honestly. But it's going to bring about new ways of communicating, and probably more like telepathy. So that'll be really interesting to see. But now with Mercury in Pisces, that squares the energy of Gemini. So if you're Gemini, or especially Sagittarius, which also squares Pisces, Mercury squaring Sagittarius with the ruler of Sagittarius in Pisces means that the arena that Sagittarius normally likes to travel in, which is very calculated word for that particular ideology or idea I'm trying to present, you have a sign, Sagittarius, that likes to be active and on the move and on the go and travel and very physical. But his ruling planet is in a very emotional, watery energy and at endings. So it's not a really comfortable area, even though Jupiter is a co-ruler of Pisces. Being that they square each other, there's going to be friction with how Sagittarius promotes its normal agenda. So it has to dig deeper now, has to go into the emotions. So that means that if we do things that are Sagittarian, like travel, teach, seek, explore, expand, we're going to be doing it through watery means, through the media of water, through the area, the arena. So that means people who travel, they'll be traveling by water. They'll be getting more upset or emotional or sentimental about where they travel to. I have my daughter's birthday's coming up Monday, and her dad, who has, I think he has, well, I don't know for sure. I think he has like 4 planets in Sagittarius, but he might actually just have a few. I know for sure he has Saturn in Sag, and he's always on the go. He's on the go for his career, and he has 2 homes. And so he's coming to travel for her 21st birthday, which is a very sentimental reason. And I know he's going to be very sentimental and emotional at that event. And so that's kind of what we're seeing a lot of right now with the Sagittarius ruler in Pisces. So those of you who are Mercury ruled, so Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius with Jupiter, Pisces, and Leos right now are very strongly affected by Pisces energy with all your ruling planets in Pisces. Now, Sunday, the sun goes into Aries. So we are going to have the equinox, which is spring, coming about on Sunday. And that happens at, let's see, 11:33 a.m. Eastern and 8:33 p.m. or a.m., excuse me, 11:33 a.m. Eastern and 8:33 a.m. Pacific. So we're going to see that shift very strongly early in the morning, pretty much both time zones all across the country in America anyway. It'll be in the afternoon in anywhere in Europe. So you're going to feel it more probably throughout the whole day. I was up yesterday in the evening and the moon came up. It was just so gorgeous. It was a full moon overnight last night in Virgo, 27 degrees, and it was very clarifying moon. Virgo is really organized, very analytical, and really is kind of an energy that draws on information and can rearrange it to something that's easily understood. They are the teachers of the zodiac. It rules the military. And degrees of, having Virgo in the rulership of military at the end degrees in a full moon could also mean a culmination of a situation going on militarily. And so I'm really hoping and praying that that may be a good in towards a resolution of the Ukraine-Russia situation, because, Virgo wants to break it down into strategy and intellectualize it and get to the heart of it that way. And then the next sign is Libra, which of course the moon is in right now, which is diplomacy. And so there's going to be a balancing of information. Putin's energy is all in Libra. We'll get to that in a second. We'll go back and talk about that. Saturn today is in 20 Aquarius. It is, let's see, yeah, it's now in the same sign as the moon. So probably Saturday, we're going to have more energy towards what's going on diplomatically. Aquarius is the ruler of what I assign the rulership of Russia and Ukraine. They both have very strong Aquarian energy, which is probably why they're both embroiled in the situation right now, because Aquarius is super strong in their natal charts based on their constitutions. And having the moon in Libra, of course, now it's we are alike. Let's balance this. We have other countries acting as the fulcrum, referee, getting to a solution. So I'm really holding out a lot of optimism for this. Venus and Mars are also in Aquarius right now. And so that's going to reinforce that humanitarian effort. Pluto still at 28. So of course, Scorpions are people, Scorpio sun sign, ruled by Pluto, are wrapping up an old story emotionally. And it does very strongly connect to value and values within your life, like what you value, but also how other people value you. It is the sign of cooperation of other energies, of other people. And so it is the upper half of the zodiac, meaning that we really see a larger story of the collective mindset around values. And currently, I don't know if you've noticed it, but I have noticed it all over the world. And also on one of the podcasts I listened to just before this show, that we are very tired of this authoritarian energy of, hey, I said it, I'm doing it, I'm acting on behalf of the country, but they aren't acting on behalf of the country. That the majority of the country really is trying to have peace and wanting peace in our land, in everyone's land. So that seems to be an overarching theme around the world, with few exceptions, of course, China and Russia. But I'm trying to think, is there another holdout? I think I've heard of another holdout, and other supportive countries, but I don't know who they are. I know for sure China is holding out and somewhat standing on the side of Russia. So we'll see how that goes, because keep in mind, if these things are making you afraid, they're very large countries, of course, Russia and China, but they also have very large quantities of people who are feeling the same energy, the energy that we are tired of having this constant warring. They're going to be the exceptions, and the exceptions are ego-based, ego-ruled. But overall, I think the collective shift of the world is towards world peace and towards cooperation. That being said, I'll reiterate that we are at the end degrees of Pluto in Capricorn. We are moving more towards Pluto in Aquarius, which is going to give us a stronger internal drive towards the collective, towards waking up and understanding things as a world, and recognizing the individuals within the world, but not wanting to give away our power to the hierarchy. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. So Aquarians, you are at 12 degrees Taurus. Taurus means money and love. It means growing things, as I say, over and over. And so hopefully you're not getting too tired of the discourse around some of these planets, but the repetition, that's how you learn. I'm trying to bring in kind of a new awareness and more subtleties of each of the signs, but Aquarius people are now having a transit of Saturn, Venus, Mars in their natal sign, but they've also got the squaring of the rulership. So there is friction for Aquarians, very specifically, learning how to integrate this energy. And it is a frustrating energy potentially, but also a very wonderful time of growth and learning and expression for your sign. Wouldn't be surprised if Aquarians and Taurians get together at this time, because there is this commonality of the Aquarian energy in both their signs, of Venus in mutual reception to Uranus. So Uranus is in Venus's natal sign of Taurus, and Venus is in Aquarius, Uranus's natal sign, and Uranus is in Taurus, Venus's natal sign. Did you get that? I hope you did. I hope that wasn't too confusing. They're in each other's signs, to put it simply. And so there is a massive cooperation, and also it's like you're coming together from exactly squared angles, but to get cooperation for a collective agreement. So even though you approach the solution differently, one from earth, one from air, you are still wanting the same outcome. And so there is a strong, like literally today and tomorrow, Venus is directly squaring Uranus to the exact degree. So tomorrow being Saturday the 19th, an exact square. And so that is kind of the culmination or denouement, the peak energy of that event before Venus goes on and joins up with Saturn in the next about 10 days. So once Venus hits Saturn, she's going to want to ground and want to really dig in with her vision for money, for growth, for structure, and solidifying something. So as far as like Ukraine and Russia is concerned, I would say that that would also be a culmination of energy. As Venus gets to Saturn, it's like desires shift, or desires are having to be really restricted and taken to task. Saturn's the taskmaster. Saturn says, I understand you want this. I understand you have a desire. Desire is Venus's nature and modality. And Saturn says, yes, but we have to ground it in, we have to give it structure. So the desire right now, squaring Uranus in Taurus, is there's another view, another awareness, another awakening or point of view or way of looking at things that is going to be integrated. And so by the time Venus gets to Saturn, she's ready to talk about how something can be grounded into the collective consciousness, to our way of interacting with Aquarius. And this is pretty important in the overall scheme of things as Pluto gets into Aquarius, because Saturn's a big energy in the sky as far as really making us snap to attention and figuring out where we're going with our career, with our life purpose. And as Pluto comes in and majorly shifts the energy, it's like Pluto is the one that stirs up the dirt on the bottom of the tank or the dirt on the bottom of the pond and says, this muck is around here and you can't just ignore it. You can't just throw things below the surface. So I got an image of all the million tires that were put into the ocean. I don't know if you heard about it. I think I talked about it last week. They threw 1 million tires into the ocean in, I think, 89. And it was approved of by the government. And now they're disintegrating over time. It was meant to create a base for the coral reef. And they're disintegrating. And then they're loose cannons destroying the coral reefs. So that's all below the surface. And that's kind of what Pluto does, is especially whatever sign he's in, and he's going into an air sign, digs up the grunge and brings it up into above the surface where the air is and airs it out. And so that kind of energy is going to be coming into our world and really showing us what has been going on that we can't see. And of course, Saturn is moving through the last 10 degrees of Aquarius, and we'll be getting to Pisces, which means that currently Saturn in Aquarius is taking us to task for technology and science, cryptocurrency, how we see science. We've had mass media questioning science, and a certain group of political beliefs questioning science. And so that was the Saturn energy taking it to task and putting the fire at the feet of science and technology with, monopolies and privacy concerns going on with technology. So those are the kind of areas that are coming out with this Saturn in Aquarius. And as Pluto moves in, Pluto says, okay, we've had Saturn there. You've been kind of under the strict authoritarian guideline of government saying, hey, is this good or is it not good? But Pluto comes in and says, you don't have the luxury to ignore certain things anymore. And right now in the Earth sign of Capricorn, we are seeing the crisis on the globe of the material world. Like, what have we done to the world? What have we done to the animals and the earth and the trees and like all the physicality, the structure of the globe? And when Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's going to definitely ramp up what cryptocurrency is about, science, going to the moon, space technology, alternative realities, chemicals, chemistry, things that are sciencey, for lack of a better way to describe it. There's like this whole bubble zeitgeist in my brain, are, like this whole paradigm that encompasses the energy of Aquarius. And channeling is under the energy of Aquarius. Astrology is under Aquarius. So if you put LOG at the end of a word, then it's probably under Aquarius. Psychology, astrology, although I have to say psychology is probably more Pluto, but Pluto in Aquarius is about mental health, like not taking it for granted anymore, getting systems with Saturn going through Aquarius in line. We've been seeing a lot about mental health lately too. So when Pluto goes in, Pluto rules psychology and digging deep for understanding deeper emotional responses. So in the sign of mental health of Aquarius, now we're going to start to see a very strong concern about getting our mental health up and above board. When I was growing up, any kind of, kind of what would be considered a weakness. I mean, that's how it was energetically when I was growing up. If you're in a wheelchair, if you had a handicap, if you had mental health issues, they were all very hidden. They were all very over there. In the area I grew up in the Midwest, very bland, white bread, not a lot going on of extremism. And it was very much, you didn't necessarily recognize people with health issues or handicaps, things like that. It just wasn't in your face. It wasn't in your common day to day. And it doesn't mean it didn't exist. It just meant that they put people who had difficulty in institutions. They put people with mental health issues and learning disabilities off over there, away from the mainstream. And that has gratefully come a very long way in the 50 years since I was in elementary school. So as we get to Pluto and Aquarius, we are not going to be able to just shove our problems off to the side. We are going to immerse ourselves in them. We are going to find solutions, because that's what Pluto does. It finds solutions. So coming up this week, we're going to jump over here and take a left turn into the week again. And so I'm going to go by the moons. It just makes it easier to encapsulate the week quickly. And the moons are Scorpio for the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday. And of course, that means we're going to be much more intuitive, much more deeply connected to the stories that are in the news. It can mean that we're going to have some difficulty with the Aquarian energy and the Scorpio energy, being that the moon is going to be opposite Uranus and squaring to all the Aquarius planets, currently Venus, Mars, Saturn. So Venus, Mars, Saturn means relationships, means connecting to brothers and sisters and parents, family members who are represented by that, friendships represented by that energy. Having Scorpio energy beginning of next week is also going to be trine to the Pisces energy. And of course, 4 planets, well, by then it'll be 3 planets in Pisces and then the moon in Scorpio. Really emotional beginning of the week. It can be endings. Scorpio historically rules death and rebirth. Pisces end degrees of Neptune, and then the sun going into a new sign after the end of Pisces can also mean the end of a story, end of a storyline, end of a life, end of a business, endings. I'll just leave it at that. Emotional endings. So we're going to see that probably the beginning of the week where we will be dealing with the fallout of an ending that is deeply emotional, that the collective, because Pisces is the collective, will be group connected through our emotions. So large stories coming up probably over the weekend. Yeah, so just look for that. Anyway, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, Sagittarius lightening things up. Of course, moon goes into Sagittarius, which squares the ruler of Sagittarius. So of course, that means travel. It can be difficult. I would also tend to say that when we have all this energy in Pisces, there, especially with the ruler of travel in Pisces, and then the moon in Sagittarius squaring that, it's going to mean that there probably are going to be issues with travel associated with inclement weather, fog, rain, storms, etc., flooding, any of the above, all watery weather events. It can also mean that you may find flooding issues or water issues in your home. Mercury is in Pisces, which can also mean, washing machines and things that interact with water are the appliances in a water sign. So you could find those become a problem. And there could be electrical shortages due to Mercury and Pisces, because now water is the modality. Electrical, of course, conducts through water, but also not really, you don't put your electronics in water. So keep an eye out for that. Watch your phones. Don't let them go near the toilet, goodness sakes. Okay, and then the weekend, we're going to have, this is the 25th and 26th weekend. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. Capricorn. So of course, more of the usual Capricorn energy of career, hierarchies, restriction, fear, control. It is also growth and settling in to initiating things that will last. It is a very lasting energy in Capricorn. So if you want to grow something that will last, next weekend, not this coming, but the weekend from there, the 25th and 6th, is going to be much better for that. Pluto's getting to the end degrees. Always at the end degrees, we're going to find a push of energy from that sign before it changes signs, and that will be the coming year. So if you want something to really settle in and have lasting power, staying power, it's going to be happening this year before Pluto gets into Aquarius, because Aquarius is historically a very quick changing energy. And that means that we're interested in this and we figure it out and then we move on to that, because it's about understanding how things work. So we're looking at it, how can I figure this out? How can I figure it out? Oh, now I understand how it works. Okay, so I know I've touched a bit on Putin's chart. I haven't really spent a great deal of time, I don't believe, specifically on him. So I'm going to do that now. And it's, even though I'm going to dig into it, I'm not going to spend forever on it. I got to tickle. Oh, Putin has an October 7th, 1952 at 9:30 a.m. St. Petersburg, Russia birth time. So we can see what's going on with him through this chart. And I'm a firm believer that, you do the best you can with the information you have. And, astrology to me it's logical. It has history. It has information that we can research through other people associating transits to events. So that's the logic of it. But it is also a modality of communicating information through higher self and through spirit. And so from that perspective, it is a type of tool used to understand information coming through from higher self and higher spirit. And so from that angle, I definitely see when you have a chart and it's the best you can do for a time, it may be not exact, but you can still bring in information that comes into your mind while you're reading the chart, and it can be very valid. So I don't necessarily negate anything just because a birth time isn't known, especially if you can do a sunrise chart. You can always get a lot of information through a sunrise chart as well. But this is what we have for his birth time, and I'm going to use it as if, because, the US Constitution chart is also kind of in question as to when that exactly was the last signature. So we do the best we can, and we run with the overall information coming through the chart. And I use it based on my years of experience, about over 4 decades of experience now. Okay, so his chart shows a stellium. This is kind of the big thing that I wanted to touch on, was he has a stellium in Libra, and it's in the 12th house. So when you have a stellium, which is, multiple planets, in this case, he has 4 planets in the sign of Libra, it kicks the energy over to the other side of the chart, which is Aries. And his Aries, he has a, 3-degree Scorpio rising. So he's got that energy of warrior in his first house of identity. Also revenge. In a lower energy, meaning you have ego and you have spirit. In the ego, you're vengeful. In the spirit, you've integrated an understanding that other people, just because other people behave a certain way, you've grown beyond your insecurity as an ego entity, and now you understand that it comes back to you, and you don't have to, if you're a secure person, you don't have to blame other people, and you don't have to bring in the ego to get revenge. So higher energy of Scorpio is really embracing of people in an emotionally sensitive sign that can really help promote understanding and connection, whereas the lower energy of Scorpio is very vengeful. Obviously, being in the first house, he channels a lot of the ego energy of Scorpio. I also have a Scorpio rising. Fortunately, I have the ruler of Scorpio next to Uranus and in Virgo, which really shifts that energy. But pure Venus in Scorpio in the first house is going to mean he sees his desires as the right way. He sees himself as expressing the right way to do things. And Scorpio can make you a bit arrogant about what you understand to be true. And so how he desires things, he just automatically assumes he's right. kicking his Sun, Saturn, Neptune, and Mercury over to Aries because they're all clustered together within 10 degrees of each other, all from Sun at 13 to Mercury at 23. They're all next to each other in between. And that's a very strong laser energy put into Aries. And so he acts more like an Aries, even though, yes, he is a Libra. And I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about, oh, he's a Libra. Yeah, he's a Libra, but he's got a stellium in Libra, which kicks him over to Aries. And that makes him really more aggressive. And it's in his house of work. So he's very militaristic about how he goes about things. He enjoys that. He enjoys the strategy with the Scorpio rising. And then energy of Aries really as kind of a counterbalance to that stellium in Libra. And it's in his house of work. So that would mean that he enjoys the strategy. He enjoys the competition. He enjoys blood. I mean, Aries rules the blood. So now he's got this stellium basically expressing through his sixth house, his work house of Aries. And, I don't know that anybody's particularly talked about that. I've only heard a few different astrologers take on this, but I can tell you, having stelliums in my chart, I have a stellium in Virgo that definitely acts like Pisces. And yet, fortunately, I can still channel a lot of my Virgo humanitarianism in the 11th house. But, right now, completely off the hook with the Pisces energy. So when we get Jupiter in Aries, it is a transformation of that energy. And so I think what happens when you have a stellium opposite a very large transiting body that is in the sign the stellium would channel, you're going to have a shift and change of mentality. Now, in his case, is that going to be good, or is it going to be completely self-absorbed? Aries has a lot of good qualities. Aries are really good committers as far as relationships, as far as I found. Now, yes, they are highly sexually driven, but they also are singular, and they can, like their second house is Taurus, which is the sign of being in a couple. And so they do seek out that groundedness, the Taurian energy of being in a couple. His natal Jupiter is in Taurus in the house of partnership. So he does seek out information. It takes him a long time to decide because Jupiter in Taurus is going to make you really cautious about the people that you bring into your inner circle and bring into your confidence. He's got a 2-degree Gemini moon, which coupled with that stellium kicking over to Aries and Gemini together are going to be very cooperative around egocentricity. He's he feels as a person most comfortable in his intellect with the moon in Gemini. It is the Scorpio house. So moon in Gemini, I would say, yes, Aries and Gemini are probably the most self-interested signs of the zodiac. As a general rule, I am not blaming anybody. I have friends of both signs, but Gemini definitely has a harder time being sympathetic. I think emotionally sympathetic. So you have that emotionally sympathetic moon in Gemini. He's going to be sympathetic to his own point of view. In the Scorpio area of his chart is going to be, again, the vengeful energy. And that's the lower energy if he chooses to bring out the lower energy, which I think we can all agree is what, from the external point of view, he is absolutely doing. Having the stellium in his 12th house, including the sun, his ego identity is very much hidden from himself. He is not able to see how he's perceived outside of himself. And he's got a Saturn there. So wherever Saturn falls in your chart, your Saturn in the 12th house means you're doing a lot of things that are hidden. You're doing the strategy behind the scenes. Your career is behind the scenes. Your identity is behind the scenes. He's 4 degrees apart from Sun and Saturn, which means he has a restriction of emotion in the 12th house. He is his own worst enemy, quite honestly. Neptune in the 12th house, again, also very diluted energy going there. And then Mercury just above the horizon. So again, Pisces house. He is good with stealth. I think, honestly, he thinks of himself as intelligent because he's got the moon in Gemini. He's got the air energy strong in his chart. He's got North Node in Aquarius. Of course, now Saturn's in Aquarius on his North Node. Let me see where Saturn is transiting exact 20 degrees 45 Aquarius, and his natal North Node is at 20 degrees and it looks like 0 minutes. I don't see the nodes on this chart right away. Oh, there it is, true node. No, 19:59 minutes. So 19 degrees 59 minutes Aquarius. So they're basically conjunct. Major life changes going on with Saturn on his North Node opposite his South Node. And by the way, his South Node is Pluto. And his South Node is conjunct to Pluto within 2 degrees at his midheaven, which is midheaven's 21 Leo. And so, of course, his South Node is 20 degrees of Leo, or 19, let me see, what did I just say? 1959 Aquarius. So his South Node is 1959 Leo. And Pluto's at 22, which is a world point, and are connecting to the world point. And Pluto, major change. So that, if you're wondering how this whole thing became a world event, Pluto on the midheaven opposite the North Node in Aquarius with the transit of Saturn. That's how it became a world event. Other aspects in his chart, of course, are Jupiter and Taurus at 19 squaring. He's got, well, probably with a progressed chart, Venus is, oh, who knows, it could be in Sagittarius by now. His Mars is late Sagittarius in the second house. So late degrees means you're wrapping up, you're concentrating the energy. So his Mars, the planet of action and aggression, is in late degree Sagittarius, which is foreign energy. So he's acting out in foreign energy, and it's answering to Jupiter. It's also answering to Jupiter in the sky right now. And so that means that as Jupiter gets closer to Aries, it's going to be directly squaring his Mars. So Jupiter squaring his Mars is going to be life transformation. And he's coming up against that square energy, that friction of how he expresses his Mars. Those are the frustrations for his chart right now. But pretty much having Pluto opposite the North Node conjunct the South Node in Leo Aquarius, with our planets going Saturn on top of that, I can tell you, if he's still around, Pluto being on his North-South Node, I don't look forward to it. I hope he's not around at that time, because that's a very, very intense conjunction that, I mean, major changes around Pluto, plutonium, a Pluto opposition. It's extreme. It's extreme. So people born around the same time as him, if they have Scorpio risings, could also be seen in the public eye. It's not pleasant. And, you know, having a Pluto conjunct the nodes, you're always going to have major public eye if they are on the north-south, the IC and the MC axis, north, you know, like keep saying north, the middle of the sky in the chart, and the IC, the Imam Coeli at the bottom. And so that's where it falls in his chart. And he is a significant transformative energy in this world. He has puppet strings going in other parts of the world. It's not just his place. He's got him all over, of course. And he honestly is an evil genius, in my opinion. He thinks of himself that way. That's how he expresses himself. He does have Uranus and Cancer, which honestly can bog him down. He sees his homeland as needing to be free in the eyes of other countries. Like his Uranus and Cancer is in the house of Sagittarius. So he's constantly trying to break free and be independent from other countries. And yet he's overbearingly trying to absorb them into his own, which is Saturn in the Pisces house, wanting to bring things and having no boundaries. So it's kind of an odd juxtaposition in his chart. But the trine between his Venus and his Uranus is also concerning, because the trine means that that's an energy where he sees it in a positive light, but it really will bring out this slap of awakening. So definitely anytime the planets go across his Venus, he's going to have an awakening moment, or Cancer. So looking at this chart, definitely an inconjunct, probably just outside of an exact, it's 8 degrees of an inconjunct outside, ending in inconjunct between Mars and Uranus in his chart. So that means that there is still some energy going into his Uranus when the sun gets to Cancer. In July of this year, we're going to see a trigger on his Uranus. It's in the Jupiter house, which can also mean having the sun on his Uranus in the Jupiter house and Jupiter going to Aries. That's going to square his Cancer. And so I think that that could be a very difficult energy for him. If we're still in this issue by July, by the end of June, I would look to maybe even the middle of June when it hits exact square to his Uranus. He's either going to implode or he's going to act out in ways that are going to be tremendously bad for his people. Let's put it that way. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much the overview I have of his chart. He's got Chiron, 7 degrees Capricorn. So of course, when Pluto hit his Chiron, it really triggered him. And I think that was probably around 2010, 2011. So, and might have been 2014 when he went into Ukraine the first time, but we are wrapping it up. Pluto's at the end degrees. We're wrapping it up. There's an inconjunct that just hit his natal North Node and Pluto, with having Pluto in Capricorn. So it just, he's getting it. His chart's very stressed out, and obviously that's spilling out into the world. So we'll see how it goes overall. Yeah, I'm going to end there, and we'll see you next week. Take it easy and try to breathe deeply. I think we've got the full moon. We just had the full moon overnight, and we have the equinox. So Aries energy is on its way in. Definitely going to shift things for Putin. Yeah, it's going to be in his house of connectivity, and it is already, because he has late Pisces in the 5th house, which is the Leo ego area. When the sun goes into Aries, it's the precursor for Jupiter going in, and we'll see really kind of some of the energetic themes and issues that are going to be coming up when Jupiter goes into Aries later in the year. So first is the sun, the ego, and then comes Jupiter and transformation. But before then, we'll probably see Venus and Mars hit that. And May is when Jupiter gets there. So I'm not going to go over it this week. I'll save it for next week. We'll talk about Venus and Mars next week, okay? Anyway, that's it. Take care. See you next week. Thanks for joining. And please do check out my website at angeliczodiac.com if you'd like a reading. Take care. Bye. Over 4 decades of experience.
Hi, this is Shelley. Thank you for joining us this week. To contact me for a private reading, go to angeliczodiac.com under the Readings tab. Background music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. To purchase my ebook, Learn Astrology, you can find it at angeliczodiac.com, including discounts. Be sure to check back next week and subscribe through iTunes at AstroEnergy Astrology Show.